Hello, this is The Breakdown. I'm Adrian Clarke. Thank you so much for joining me. It's time to analyse Arsenal 1, Chelsea 0, the Gunners through to the League Cup final. It wasn't a great spectacle, was it, in terms of entertainment? And Arsenal had a lot of stick this season. I think those uneducated people that probably don't get to watch Arsenal week in, week out, very quick to label Arsenal boring. But for me, that's not the case. I think that Arsenal's opponents are pretty boring because they're always scared to attack. You just got to look at the Champions League where Arsenal have been richly entertaining, scored bags of goals because they're coming up against teams that are concentrating on their own game rather than all about stopping Arsenal from playing. And really, Chelsea followed suit. They were behind in the tie, yet we saw a game plan from Liam Rossini that was designed to just contain and just to keep Chelsea in the tie. And I think that was the reason it was a disappointing match. They changed their system, of course, to 5-4-1. And in fairness, the game plan worked. They did negate us. They made it really difficult for Arsenal to get into the final third. They packed the middle of the pitch. The defence came up. Everybody got behind the ball. And basically the whole match really was played in the middle third, which was completely packed. And we found it really hard to play through that. So in that sense, it did work. But really and truly, what did Chelsea do? Were there any gooners out there that were nervous, that thought that Chelsea were going to score goals in this game? I didn't really. Even when they flicked the switch on about the hour mark and went a little bit more attacking, they really didn't cause Arsenal too many problems. Just speculative long shots, really. Yeah, it was a strange old game. Going to a back five from Chelsea was interesting in itself. A nice idea in theory, but have you seen this stat? Arsenal are now unbeaten in their last 21 matches in all competitions against teams that have lined up with a back three or a back five. So if you'd have known that stat, Liam Rossini, maybe he wouldn't have gone that way because they needed to win. And at no stage in that game did they look like winning. Look, there were some odd stats. Before we get to the nuts and bolts of the analysis, there were some odd stats. Arsenal had 5 shots. Very, very low to Chelsea's 12. Only had 2 shots in the second half as well. Arsenal had 44.2% of possession. Very, very low. And only 77 passes inside the final third. Really, it was unusual to see Arsenal kept at arm's length. But the thing was, Arsenal didn't have to go out and score. They didn't have to win the game. Chelsea wanted to lure us onto them. They wanted us to pass it through the middle of the pitch into that crowded zone where they'd steal the ball and come at us and catch us off guard. And we didn't have to do that. So we didn't. And we end up winning the game, which is fantastic. Right, let's get to some of the analysis in terms of graphics and clips of the game. We did find it hard to play through that middle of the pitch and get higher up. There's no question about that. They refused to press us. It was a game of cat and mouse. Very, very tactical. Let's show you our successful passes from the first half now. Here you go. And as you can see, there isn't a lot going on inside the final third. There's no fullbacks or wingers really getting into the final third to cut the ball back or to cross it. This is a lot of passing at the back, isn't it? Even over the halfway line, there's not a lot of action in terms of Arsenal's distribution. Flip it onto the second half, and there's even less. Look at down the middle of the pitch. Really nothing around the centre circle, between the centre circle and the D. Hardly any successful passes. We did progress up the pitch a little bit more in that second half, but really and truthfully, Chelsea's game plan did work in the sense that we couldn't really play through the thirds down the middle of the pitch. But you can only really say it worked if you win the game or if you score a goal. They lost the game and they got knocked out 1-0. So I think there might be a little bit of regret there from Chelsea, but from Arsenal's point of view, absolutely perfect. Now, I was on commentary duty as always for the Arsenal app and the website, and I was saying during the game, because the middle third's so congested, because they've got quite a high line here, we've got to flip the ball over the top and turn them. And once you do that 2 or 3 times, a team will always just naturally drop off. Defenders don't like chasing back towards their own goal. They'll naturally drop off, and that would have stretched the pitch out and made it easier for us to play through the lines. We only really flipped it over the top a couple of times in the first half. This example here is the most memorable, and I want to show you it now. Here you go. Look at that with the red square there. All of the players, all the outfield players there, congested either side of the halfway line. That was the pattern of the game. Look at the pass from Gabriel, the run from Gabriel Martinelli. I've got an arrow there for Fofana. He's been drawn in to Declan Rice, who's taken up a nice position. So he's tried to get aggressive with him. It's fractured their back line, and Gabriel's played a great ball over the top. And you'll remember that Gabriel Martinelli ran onto it. And the bounce of the ball just didn't sit for Gabriel Martinelli, unfortunately. He had to slow down. He had to take a touch. Nice little swivel. It was a good block from Gusto in the end. But that, I think, was the way to hurt Chelsea in the game. Look, they thought they were clever by putting 3 players up front from corners. That was a big talking point during the game and after the game. And I think that policy makes sense for a lot of teams that don't like their goalkeeper being crowded. Robert Sanchez, of course, for Chelsea, letting 2 goals in 2 games from corners against us. He really didn't like it. So I get the fact that they've cleared the box out. But I want to show you just what that setup looked like and really how, if that's copied by other teams, there's absolutely no reason for Arsenal to worry, because I think they can still make hay from corners. Let me show you that now. Here you go. Circled there is the penalty box. Obviously, you've got 3 up front that they've left. Eza's come back. Hincapié, who's on that far side in about 30 yards from goal on the left, he actually goes and joins in at the last minute to make up numbers inside the box because he's not needed. We left ourselves 3v3. And what I'd say here is that the way they've done it, I mean, it's just made for Eza. If other teams copy, Eza can go short there to Madueke. He can either cross it or give it back to Madueke. And that man at the near post, who's kind of the spare man, will instantly be drawn out. And there'll be a huge gap at the near post for us to whip the ball in, maybe for Gabriel Magalhaes, maybe for somebody else. As we sort of zoom in as Madueke takes this corner now, we've circled it again, and it's 5v6. We've still got 2 players standing in front of the keeper, making it difficult for Robert Sanchez. Gabriel Magalhaes has evaded his man. Timber's free at the far post. If we get the delivery right, it doesn't matter how many people they got in that box, Arsenal will still cause them problems. And actually, from the second phase of this corner, we had a great chance because Eberechi Eza was played in down the right, cuts the ball back for Hincapié, and this strike here drew a really good save out of Robert Sanchez. So, in essence, one of our best chances as a game came from a moment where Chelsea had left 3 players up front for the corner. Look, it's an eye catcher. It's a bit of a headline grabber, but really, was it in Chelsea's best interest? I'm not entirely sure, and I think that I wouldn't be upset at all if Sunderland, if Brentford, if Wigan, all these teams that we've got coming up, if they all copied that, fine. I still think that we would score goals from dead ball situations. Right, in terms of our play, it was a bit safety first. Our quality wasn't great. We were a little bit tentative on the ball, but the truth is, we boxed clever because the game state of the cup tie meant that Chelsea had to win the game. So we needn't have taken any risks, and we didn't take many risks. And Chelsea were gutted about that because they would have loved it if we'd have played passes into midfield, and because they would have been swarming all over us to win it, and they would have broken on us. So I didn't mind the fact, actually. At the time it was frustrating, but having slept on it, I think it was a good ploy from Mikel Arteta. And there is one moment that does stand out where we didn't play it safe, and funnily enough, it led to arguably Chelsea's best chance of the game. I want to show you it here and now. So here you go. It's Madueke. You might remember this. Madueke's down the right-hand side. Timber's in field. And Saliba did what he did against United. He makes this underlap to show for the ball. It's a habit that I don't really like, especially when Jurriën Timber's sat in midfield, because it leaves us really short at the back. So that pass is played by Madueke. It's a bad choice. And Caicedo steals the ball, and he gets it. and then Zubimendi comes across and he slips it between Zubimendi and Madueke to Cucurella, and you'll see there that Timber and Saliba are out of the game, and Enzo Fernandez is goal side. Gabriel's got a one-on-one with Joao Pedro. So we roll it on. They're nowhere. Saliba's had to scramble back. They square the ball to Enzo Fernandez, who curls a really good shot actually, and it's well saved by Kepa. So there's a little reminder of why we played like we did in this game and why we chose not to take too many risks and chances. And ultimately, it was the correct decision for Mikel Arteta. It was the right game plan. So I applaud him and I applaud the players as well, because it takes some discipline when you're at home. And while I'm on that subject, I want to say well done to the crowd at Emirates Stadium. I have sometimes been critical of the moans and groans of late, but in this game, they stayed with the team throughout and they really did act as the 12th man. They were very, very supportive. It wasn't a great performance from Arsenal in possession, and we know that, but we still had chances, and we still probably, even though the XG was quite low from us, the shot count was very low, we still had good opportunities to win the game, and I think we were deserving winners in the end. For starters, an absolute nailed-on penalty was denied Arsenal. I think this is really one of the most controversial decisions of the season so far, because it was a clear foul. Let me show you the point of contact. So initially, Fofana, there's a turnover. Eza plays the ball to Martinelli, slightly under hit, and it allows Fofana the chance to make the tackle, and he wins it cleanly. There's no argument at all that he gets there first, and it's a decent tackle. But as we can see here, after he follows through, his left leg, he's looking at Martinelli, and his left leg deliberately is raised in order to trip Gabriel Martinelli. You can all look back at the replay. He wins the tackle clean. The left leg doesn't have to come up. It does come up. It comes up because he wants to trip Gabriel Martinelli. It beggars belief, really, that this wasn't given as a penalty kick. But we kept our cool. We kept plugging away, and we just waited for Chelsea to commit too many bodies forward, to flick that switch and go for it, which they were very slow to do. And then we would pick them off. And there was a big chance, not too far from the end, that Gabriel Magalhaes has. And I'd like to show you that here, because it's actually quite a funny freeze frame. So here you go. Actually, no. First of all, let's go with this Madueke chance. So Madueke comes down the right hand side, cuts inside Cucurella, and he looks up, right? And here it is. Here is the freeze frame, and it's a 3v2. Look at that. Martinelli and Gyökeres are picked up. Fofana has been drawn out a little bit to look after Martin Zubimendi, who's pushed on into a really good position. And Jurrien Timber is all on his own in between three blue shirts. Get that delivery right, and it's a nailed-on goal for Jurrien Timber. Unfortunately, it was a really poor cross from Madueke, and it goes straight into the goalkeeper's arm. So that was a big chance that went a begging, a missed opportunity, really. And it showed that, had we just been a bit more clinical in the moments, no matter, we could have had a penalty, could have scored there, and we wouldn't have needed that injury time goal. This is the one I was talking about with Gabriel Magalhaes. It's Zubimendi that gets involved initially. Again, it's from a turnover, and he clips a gorgeous ball in, doesn't he, towards that far post. And I was up. I was in the commentary box. I was up on my feet. I thought, this is in. Gabriel Magalhaes, free header, far post. And he heads it straight at the head or face of Cucurella, who does really well. But look at their circled. You've got Trossard and Eza, both arms in the air. They think this is a goal. This is it. This is the moment we scored a winner, and it wasn't to be. Cucurella gets his bonds in the way of it, and the chance went. Look, Chelsea had nothing. I mean, there's only really one time I felt remotely edgy, and that was when Cole Palmer had a free kick on the edge of the box. He ends up hitting the wall. That was the only time I felt nervous. Everything was quite speculative from long range. The two efforts they had inside the box were sort of deflected onto them. There's no way they were going to score those goals. So yeah, it was a low chance game. It really was. So then finally we get to the winning goal. Chelsea, they're not really going gung ho, but maybe in injury time they finally committed players forward. And I just want to run you through the winning goal because it was a beauty, wasn't it? Let's start here. Cucurella's played the long pass. He's just hoofed it forward. It was still with those blue shirts. It's a hopeful ball. And it's a great header. It's a great header for Hincapié because he deliberately places it to the left because he knows that's where Trossard is running. It's a really nice cushioned header. And as we roll it on, Trossard gets there. And Cucurella has sprinted about 50 yards diagonally to close down Trossard. And that means he's left one person at the back. So it's a bold move. He doesn't get there. And Trossard is able to slip the ball up the line because Declan Rice makes a proactive run. He's full of running, wasn't he, Declan Rice? Worked so hard. It's a really good run. And then as we all saw this moment where he whips the ball across the pitch to Kai Havertz. It takes a little nick, actually, along the way. And then Havertz is the coolest man in the stadium, isn't he? Because in that moment, you had Gabriel Martinelli steaming on his inside. He could have tried to play him in. I think Martinelli went a little bit too far past him. So he has to go around the keeper, and he does it magnificently. And I love the whole pointing at the badge at celebration. He was very calm, and he just reminded everyone who he plays for and who he wants to play for. And that was a real sort of dig towards Chelsea. And it sent Arsenal back to Wembley. It's been too long since we were underneath that arch, and I cannot wait for the cup final against Manchester City. Absolutely brilliant. We deserve to win this game for the composure of the performance, for basically giving Chelsea nothing. And we deserved it for the first leg display, which was really enterprising. And I think on the balance of that game, we were unlucky not to win it 4-1. So the right team has made it into the final. I know I'm biased, but I genuinely believe so. And this Arsenal side have got different ways of playing. We can adjust to any style, any tactic. We are able to go long, we can go short, we can go attacking, we can play on the counter, we can do it all. And non-Arsenal fans don't always realise that. They don't give us the credit for that. This Arsenal side went toe-to-toe with Chelsea in the first leg, outscored them, outshot them, outclassed them at times. And in this game, you saw the discipline of the performance. Right, player ratings time. It wasn't a fun game to watch. So my ratings might reflect that, but I still want to praise some of the boys. Look, Kepa's a 7, made that good save that we saw. Didn't have much else to do, but he was a calm presence. Never looked flustered at all, and yeah, I was pleased with his performance. Jurrien Timber, very restrained. Didn't get into the final third really at all, but he nullified whoever he was up against, whether it was Enzo, whether it was Esteval. They did nothing. Saliba a 7. I didn't like that little underlap, as I said, but I think in general he was good. Gabriel Magalhaes, I liked some of his longer passes. They were great, and it was a leader, and yeah, it was a typical Gabriel Magalhaes performance. Yeah, he gets a 7 as well, as does Hincapié, and a lot of people out there sort of made Hincapié their man of the match. I didn't quite go that far. He still makes me a bit nervous. I feel like he might commit a foul quite a lot. He steams in on people. But in fairness to him, he did defend well, and he was really awkward to play against. Hincapié won 8 of 10 duels, which is fantastic. He won 3 of 5 tackles. So I think he can be very, very happy with his performance. He still makes me a bit nervous, but he did play well in the game. Zubimendi for me is a 7 as well. He created 2 chances. That was a lovely little dink to Gabriel at the far post, but he was calm. He kept his discipline. Didn't make mistakes, didn't rise to the bait of Chelsea and give the ball away unnecessarily. Declan Rice, I will go 8. He did make some wayward passes in the game. He's a bit off, but he made the most passes outside of Gabriel Magalhaes. He actually made 60 passes, Declan Rice, to Zubimendi's 32, which shows you how often he got onto the ball. He ran his legs off as well. Now, actually, I want to show you his pass map, Declan Rice, because it is quite interesting. So here it is. It's interesting because it shows how deep he was. He was really deep. He kind of sacrificed himself in the game. He was the one that took responsibility, Declan Rice, to get it off the centre halves, to try and get us moving. And in the second half, he did drive forward with a bit more drive and purpose as well. So, yeah, I thought it was another quality performance from Declan Rice. Ezra, I'm going to give a 6 to because he didn't really impact the game with the ball. His off-the-ball work was good, and this was a bit of an off-the-ball game, of course. He regained possession 5 times, which is very good. Second half in particular, he did well in that regard, but he was quiet. I want to see him demand the ball a little bit more often. I want to see him get on that ball with greater frequency. So it's only a 6 for him, and that's the theme really across the front, because it wasn't a day for the forwards. I'm going to say Madueke 6, Gyökeres 6, Martinelli 6. It wasn't a day where they really brought that much quality. Their work without the ball was good. They were tireless. They did the odd good thing, but I don't think any of them will look back on the game particularly fondly in terms of their individual performance. As for the subs, interesting that only 2 came on. Neither was a defender, so Arteta was clearly very happy with the shape of the team without the ball. Trossard I will give a 7 to. I thought he was bright, obviously played a part in the goal. I thought he offered a little bit more on the left. And Havertz as well, 7. He scored the goal, didn't he? And that was a brilliant finish. And yeah, he didn't do loads outside of that, but it was a great moment. Such a nice moment for Kai Havertz. And he's obviously got 2 goals now. He's only just returned from that long layoff, and he's got a couple of goals already. So well done, Kai. It's a moment he'll never forget, that's for sure. As for the gaffer, do you know what? I'm going to give him an 8. He stayed very cool, and he got the job done. There was no Saka, there was no Marino, there was no Ødegaard, but there was no panic. He was calm enough not to panic and put an extra defender on and try and shut up shop. He was in full control of what our game plan was and how we were going to be measured against Chelsea, and the fact that they couldn't break us down, they didn't even remotely look like they're breaking us down, I think is a credit to his organisation. I think he wanted us to push on and to be a bit braver, but ultimately they followed his instructions, and those instructions have got us to the final, so well played. Mikel Arteta also liked the fact that he brought on Havertz over Gabby Jesus because, well, it proved to be the right call, didn't it? So that is it. Arsenal are at Wembley. Late March. At the time I'm recording, don't know if it's going to be City or Newcastle. It'll probably be City. And, I'm really, really looking forward to hopefully being there and working on the game and seeing Arsenal lift a trophy. We're certainly in the mix for it. Once we get one, maybe there'll be more to follow. Who knows? This could be a very, very special season for the Arsenal. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Up to 25k now, which is mega. Loads of you have been messaging, which I love, and I will try and get back to as many of you as I possibly can. I really appreciate all the support for the channel. Tell all your Arsenal supporting mates and get them all on board. Because this has been a good season, and I'm really, really enjoying making these videos for you lot out there. Right, that's it from me. I will see you after the next game, which of course is against Sunderland. Hopefully that'll be out on Sunday. So until then, it's bye from me.